In this podcast episode, Daniel Pink, a leading thinker and best-selling author, shares insights from one of the largest global studies ever conducted on regret, drawn from over 26,000 regrets submitted by people in 134 countries. Through a candid and deeply researched conversation with Mel Robbins, Daniel explores the universal nature of regret, why it matters, and how understanding and confronting regret can fundamentally improve our lives. He presents a framework to decode the common types of regret and offers practical tools to process regret with kindness and intentionality, revealing what truly makes a good life. Daniel Pink begins by highlighting that regret is a universal human experience. Regardless of culture, country, gender, or background, people express remarkably similar regrets. The study's extensive database shows that regrets from Milwaukee to Taipei sound alike in their themes, underscoring the shared nature of human emotion. Pink notes that everyone carries regrets, and having them does not imply weakness or failure, but rather reflects our humanity. Contrary to popular advice to always be positive and forward-looking, Pink argues that avoiding regret is unrealistic and counterproductive. Instead, regret should be seen as a signal, a knock at the door that invites us to reflect and learn. Pink carefully distinguishes regret from other emotions like disappointment. Regret specifically involves agency. It arises when we feel responsible for a different choice we might have made in the past. This personal responsibility is why regret feels painful. However, that very pain is useful because it serves as important information about what we value and how we might do better. Pink emphasizes that regret is an emotion to engage with rather than ignore or wallow in. It is universal, instructive, and intrinsic to our cognitive makeup. The research categorizes regret into four key buckets: foundation, boldness, moral, and connection regrets. Foundation regrets involve neglecting the basics of well-being and stability, such as financial mismanagement or health habits. Boldness regrets focus on missed chances to take risks or seize opportunities. Moral regrets center on situations where people feel they failed to do the right thing ethically. Connection regrets involve relationships left to drift or opportunities to reach out to loved ones that were passed over. Among these, connection regrets were the most commonly reported, often stemming from slow, undramatic drift rather than dramatic breakups. Pink stresses that facing regret with kindness and curiosity can transform it from a burden into a tool for growth. Ignoring or ruminating on regret only deepens pain, but confronting it systematically encourages us to learn about our values, clarify what matters, and improve future choices. Moreover, research shows that reflecting on regret can enhance practical skills such as negotiation, problem-solving, and overall thinking. This shift in perspective allows regret to become a catalyst for personal and professional development. The weight of connection regrets often comes from losing touch with friends or loved ones, frequently due to perceived awkwardness or fear of rejection. Pink shares stories of people who carried regrets for decades simply because they did not reach out sooner. He calls awkwardness a papery paper tiger, an imagined fear that is far less formidable than it seems. Research reveals that people generally appreciate reconnection efforts far more than we expect. The advice is straightforward: reach out, call, text, or write, even if it feels uncomfortable, because the joy and healing from reconnecting outweigh temporary awkwardness. Foundation regrets accumulate from small, everyday decisions related to work, health, finances, and lifestyle choices. These regrets often surface later in life when early neglect causes serious consequences, such as debt, poor health, or lost friendships. Pink compares it to the fable of the ant and the grasshopper. While you need not always live cautiously, consistently building a stable foundation is crucial for a good life. These foundational choices may seem minor at the moment, but add up, reinforcing the importance of attending to basic self-care and responsibility. Boldness regrets dominate the realm of missed opportunities, chances to take risks, pursue dreams, or stand up for oneself. Pink notes that people overwhelmingly regret the things they did not do rather than the things they did, especially when it comes to bold action. Whether it's failing to pursue a relationship, start a business, or try something new, the regret of inaction far outweighs regrets of mistakes made through action. Boldness regrets point us toward living more courageously and embracing possibility rather than retreating into safety. Moral regrets comprise a smaller but deeply impactful category. They arise when people feel they have acted unkindly, dishonestly, or unjustly. Pink finds hope in this category because it implies most people want to be good and feel remorse when they fall short. For those burdened by moral regrets, self-compassion is crucial. Though not excusing harmful behavior, Pink encourages making amends where possible, forgiving oneself, and helping others learn from one's mistakes. Moral regret is a force that can steer us toward integrity and deeper ethical living. Pink highlights that one of the biggest obstacles in dealing with regret is the harsh self-judgment people impose on themselves. He urges listeners to practice self-compassion and treat themselves as kindly as they would treat a friend. Regret is one moment or scene in a much larger life story, not the entire narrative. Recognizing this can relieve the crushing weight of shame, enabling clearer reflection and healing. He also reminds listeners that what feels like a catastrophic failure from the vantage point of the present often reflected a lack of knowledge or agency at the time. Research supports that putting regret into words, writing, or talking about it lessens its emotional hold. This externalization makes abstract, overwhelming feelings concrete and manageable. Pink references studies showing that writing about regret for 15 minutes a day over several days leads to measurable emotional relief and clarity. This process unburdens the mind and opens space for thoughtful lessons, rather than being trapped in continuous negative rumination. Daniel Pink proposes a 3-step framework for working with regret: inward, outward, and forward. Inward involves treating oneself kindly and reframing the regret with compassion. Outward involves expressing the regret openly by talking or writing, which reduces its hold. Forward means drawing lessons from the regret and deciding what action to take next, using third-person self-talk to gain perspective. For example, asking, "What lesson is this regret teaching Mel? What should Mel do next?" encourages detachment and clarity, helping turn regret into constructive change. Pink explains that people tend to regret missed actions more deeply than mistakes made through actions. This is partly because when we act and regret it, we can comfort ourselves by imagining how things could have been worse, a psychological process called downward counterfactual thinking. In contrast, inaction regrets leave us with nothing to contrast, creating a sense of permanent loss and helplessness. This distinction helps explain why so many regrets focus on missed chances and why taking bold steps, even with potential failure, is often wiser in the long run. For those uncertain about risking a major life change or choice, Pink suggests imagining a conversation with your future self, 10 years ahead. What would that version of you want you to do now? Often, the answer will be clear. Build a strong foundation, take the chance, do the right thing, and reach out for connection. This perspective urges decisiveness and courage, reducing the likelihood of future regret. Reconnecting with people and expressing love or appreciation is one of the most powerful antidotes to regret. Pink stresses the simplicity and urgency of saying, "I love you," or reaching out while you have the chance. Though it may feel awkward, the potential regret of missed connection is far worse. Gradually, such outreach becomes easier and more natural, with overwhelmingly positive responses from others. The podcast also explores the adaptive role of negative emotions like regret, grief, and fear. While unpleasant, these emotions play critical evolutionary roles by signaling danger, loss, or the need for change. Erasing negative feelings entirely would be harmful, as they motivate protection, learning, and connection. Regret, specifically, guides us to understand what matters and helps reshape our future behaviors. Daniel Pink closes by reminding listeners that regret is a powerful teacher and an inescapable dimension of human life. When approached with kindness and intentional reflection, regret can deepen meaning, improve relationships, and enhance personal effectiveness. Instead of resisting regret with toxic positivity, embracing it thoughtfully allows us to master our lives and create the futures we desire.